SoFi approved me for a $51,000 personal loan with no docs and same-day funding. Now, just think about what you could do with this much funding. You know, how much high interest debt that you could wipe out and how fast your credit score could jump 40, 50, even 80 points once your utilization drops to zero. That's what a personal loan like this can do for you. So coming up, you'll find out why I turned down almost $60,000 when SoFi offered it to me, the loan reason you must choose if you don't want to tank your approval chances, and the secret weapon that can get you approved with no docs. And by the way, I'll leave a link below to get pre-approved for the SoFi loan yourself. It's really quick. It takes like 30 seconds and it's a soft pull too. So you can't really lose here. Now, I've been staring at the SoFi pre-approval email for 2 days. I was thinking to myself, you know, it's right there, but do I really want to do this? And on paper, it made sense. My 0% APR promo cards, the ones I used for a kitchen and bathroom renovation, were about to expire. And the clock was ticking before those balances flipped into double-digit interest rates. But even with everything I know about credit cards and funding, I still had that little voice in my head saying, do I really need to pull the trigger yet? Part of me kind of wanted to wait. You know, the other part was just plain curious. And I've been banking with SoFi for years, multiple years. I have my checking, savings, and credit cards all with them. And if you've ever seen their ads, they love to talk about same day funding and instant approval. So I thought, all right, you know, let's put it to the test for science. You know, would it actually be as smooth and instant as they claim? Or would I end up stuck waiting days for a verification email like so many other lenders do? Even as someone who studies credit every day, there's something different about being on the other side of the screen, actually applying and waiting and watching the clock and wondering if the system will see you the same way that you think they should. So I decided to find out firsthand. And I'll be honest, you know, even after years of experience studying how banks and fintechs underwrite, I still get that small, you know, just knot in my stomach before hitting apply. I've seen enough to know that a pre-approval isn't a promise. You know, with credit cards, a pre-approval usually means you're about 90% in the clear, but personal loans are a whole different ballgame. Bigger dollar amounts, unsecured cash, and more layers of underwriting. There's simply more room for things to go sideways. And lately, I've been seeing those horror stories online. You know, people saying things like, I got pre-approved, then they asked for W-2s and pay stubs and tax returns. Or approved me 1 minute and then denied me the next minute. I've really seen enough of those to know the risk was real. So even though I trusted my credit and had a long relationship with SoFi, I'll admit I hesitated. My Experian FICO was strong, around 765, but I still had that flash of, what if they ask for docs? What if it triggers a manual review? What if I just get flat out denied for no reason? That's the thing about credit. Even when you know the system, it can still mess with your nerves. But I decided to move forward. I took a breath and then I clicked apply and decided to find out for myself. Now, when I first checked my SoFi pre-approval, it almost felt too easy. You know, I had to log in, I clicked through a few short questions, and within 30 to 40 seconds, the screen flashed to me. It said, you're pre-approved for up to $58,500. That number did stop me for a second. Even though I only asked for $30,000, seeing that kind of offer on the table made me pause. It's one thing to know that you're fundable. It's a whole nother thing to see a bank say it out loud. But instead of jumping right in, like I told you before, I waited. I sat on it for 2 days. You know, sometimes pre-approvals make you wonder, is this even real? So 2 days later, I decided to find out. I logged back in around 9 a.m. I bumped the amount up to $51,000. I selected debt consolidation as my reason, which I still think is the smartest choice for these, and I hit submit. I chose 51K because that's exactly what I needed to clear out all my debt, and I didn't need any more than that. And I didn't want to pull extra cash just because it was offered. And that's when things got interesting. It instantly went to your application is under review. But you know what? I didn't have to wait long. The decision came through in less than 20 minutes. No W-2s, no pay stubs, no we'll get back to you later in 2 or 3 business days. And by mid-afternoon, around 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, the funds were sitting in my SoFi checking account, ready to go. And I've tested dozens of lenders and credit products, and I can tell you right now, same-day funding on a 51K personal loan almost never happens. For most traditional banks, that would have taken days or even a week. And for context, they pulled Experian only, and I've been with them for years. About 5 or 6 years for, regular banking and 4 years with their credit card. Now that long-term relationship, I think clearly made a difference. So if I already knew my financial patterns inside and out, my direct deposits, spending habits, repayment history, the stuff most lenders would normally want proof for. And because they'd already seen it play out in real time, there was no need for extra paperwork or verification hoops. And I think this really drives home the point of how valuable a solid banking relationship can be. You spend years quietly building trust, thinking, it doesn't matter, until one day it's the reason your loan gets approved in minutes instead of days. And here's exactly what my profile looked like when I hit apply. Because if you've been following my breakdowns, I always share the real stats, not to flex, but to give you a benchmark of what fundable looks like in real life. So my credit score was 765, and that's the Experian FICO 8 score. That's a healthy score, but definitely not perfect. My utilization was 12%. I try to keep my usage below 10%, which is the sweet spot lenders love to see. And I'm sitting a little above that right now at the time of the application. But the bright side is it's high enough to show I actually use my cards. Banks prefer to see healthy activity, not fear of credit, and zero activity. Then my average age of accounts is 5 years and 1 month. For inquiries in the past year, I had 1 with Experian. And in keeping inquiries low is essential. And I would say that, lenders hate to see you shopping around for credit. What they call it is credit seeking. Then my credit mix is 26 bank issued credit cards, 10 installment loans / mortgages. Now, that sounds wild to some of you, but remember, credit mix is about showing range, right? It proves that I can handle revolving credit and fixed term debt responsibly. It's like a resume for how you manage different kinds of, debt obligations. Now, for the purpose of the loan, I chose debt consolidation. The loan amount was $51K. The term I chose was 6 years at 13%. And then SoFi did offer me a lower 9.75% rate, but that was tied to a 2-year term, and it required linking my credit cards for direct payoff during the application. I did go with the 6-year option instead. The rate was higher, but it gave me flexibility. I can still pay it off early and cut the interest without locking myself into a tight monthly payment schedule. So I was pre-approved for up to $58,500. It's always a good sign when you're offered more than you actually asked for. And then the funding speed was about 5 hours. Now this one blew me away because I applied in the morning and then the funds landed by the afternoon. Same day funding for over $50,000 is practically unheard of outside of financial technology companies. And I can't stress this enough. There were no docs required. So no W-2s, no tax returns, no bank statements. And for employment, I chose W-2 employee through my business payroll. I use ADP for payroll, by the way. And even though I own my own business, running payroll through it positions me as both an entrepreneur and an employee. And I really got to let you know that there are a few ways that I think SoFi is a total game changer for me. So if you ever hit that point where keeping up with all your payments feels like juggling knives, that's exactly why I think consolidation loans can help so many people. And here's what it actually did for me. It protects my credit score, first off. So as soon as the loan funded, my utilization dropped to 0 overnight. So my FICO score might actually hit the 800s by this time next month. And it helps me avoid much higher interest with those credit cards. So those promo cards that I had were great while they lasted, but the jump from 0% up to 25+% is brutal. Consolidating locked everything into a single predictable rate before that happened. It's kind of like shutting the door before the storm hits. And it helps me simplify payments. And I just kind of alluded to that. So I went from juggling 4 to 5 different due dates and statement cycles to one fixed monthly payment. So there's no more spreadsheet reminders, no more did I already pay this one, or any stress like that. Just one auto draft, and that's going to be same day every month. And then it strengthens my credit mix. So I already had a strong revolving base, 26 cards, but adding a sizable installment loan is going to kind of round out my profile. So credit bureaus and lenders love to see that variety. And here's 3 things that impact your approval odds the most that don't get talked about enough. Number 1, you want to choose debt consolidation every single time. This one simple drop-down choice can make or break your approval. When lenders ask what the purpose of your loan is going to be, they're not just collecting data, they're measuring risk. If you select something like home improvement or major purchase, you're signaling spending. But debt consolidation, on the other hand, that says stability. It tells the algorithm that you're using the money to clean up old debt, not create new ones. And lenders love that. It makes their risk models happy, their investors calm, and your approval odds shoot through the roof. And here's the thing, once the funds hit your account, you call the shots. SoFi doesn't monitor where you send the money. If you decide to pay off debt, great. If you pivot and then invest in something else, that's your decision. The system just needs to see a responsible reason to greenlight the deal. And then two, you got to understand SoFi's approval logic, right? SoFi's algorithm doesn't just look at your credit. They look at your behavior too. Have you been banking with them, using their credit card, setting up direct deposit? From the data points that I've seen in my own experience, long-term members often skip the documentation stage entirely. So no W-2s, no pay stubs, no extra steps. It's all about internal trust. The more data that they already have on you, the faster they can say yes. And if you already have a SoFi checking or savings account, that's your secret weapon. And then three, you want to leverage your income smartly. So I would say here's the part most people kind of overthink. When SoFi asks for your income, it's stated income, meaning they don't ask for proof unless something looks off. But this is where honesty meets strategy. You want to report a realistic, stable household income, one that includes your spouse or partner if they contribute. That single line item can shift your debt to income ratio just enough to unlock a much higher limit. Just don't go overboard. Staying under 300K annually keeps your application believable. Anything much higher than that, and you're asking to trigger a manual verification there. It's really about showing lenders like SoFi that you have the capacity to repay, not just the credit score to qualify. And you know what? There's another person, his name is Daniel, who's one of my community members. He got approved for 3 SoFi personal loans totaling $77,000, all with no docs required. You really got to check out the next video here to see why SoFi trusted him with back-to-back loans and learn the short seasoning window hack he uses to cycle loans faster than I even thought was possible. Thank you for watching.